Hi, and welcome to the Thought Leader Recruiter podcast, episode 1. Today we're going to explore how industry leaders are tackling the biggest talent challenges. So I'm your host, Sam Bylett, and today I'm excited to be joined by Rob Griffiths, founder of Blue Orchid Recruitment. Rob brings in over a decade of experience in the recruitment industry, having led award-winning teams and launched his own successful agency during the pandemic. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problems at all. So let's start off by telling me about what kind of initially drew you to the recruitment industry.
Like a lot of recruiters, I did fall into it. I was actually made redundant from, I was a mortgage advisor prior to working in recruitment, and I was made redundant due to the 2008 crash happened, the massive recession that we had back then. And I was speaking to a friend of mine. He said that his wife is listed with recruiting. So I took the opportunity to take that job up, really. And one of the main things that drew me to it is when I was a mortgage advisor, I was really drawn and really excited when I was working with first-time buyers, because naturally it's one of those experiences that you have where you're really excited, you're changing people's lives, and I thought I could replicate that as part of being a recruiter, really. So I was drawn to working in recruitment, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's a great career, isn't it? I've got a lot of friends in recruitment that have done really well for themselves. It's taken them around the world. Yeah, I know it's quite a challenging industry. It can be quite cutthroat, can't it? But it certainly must be quite rewarding as well.
Yeah. Champagne and raised bases, they say.
Yes.
And naturally, you've got various challenges, both economical, political. You've got effectively two customers that you're having to work with at the same time as well. The candidates, i.e. job seekers, and the clients, the employers. So managing that aspect, again, as you mentioned, it's very competitive. The jobs market is very fluid at the moment as well, given what's happening in the wider world. But if you can focus your mind on ensuring you're doing it for the right reasons, naturally helping people with their career progressions and helping businesses to grow their companies, whilst obviously helping your own career, then I think that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, absolutely. How's the recruitment landscape changed since you started your career?
Technology's probably biggest change. So there's been a huge shift in automation. AI, as we know, across every industry, AI has taken a huge increase in things. From my perspective, there's been a lot of things that have come into the recruiting industry from AI, which has helped make things like admin and the process is more efficient, and hopefully the experiences for both clients and candidates better. However, there's been a lot of scaring about AI, and I think there has been certain tools which have potentially made risk of removing the human element from recruitment. And having done my research and spoken to candidates, can do my own market research on what people would like to see and what they wouldn't like to see, then one of the things is these candidates would love to see the human element continued within recruitment. So I've taken that and I've ensured that my systems and my processes remain to have that human element, and it's also encouraging that. Naturally it probably puts the risk of recruitment completely, losing it completely, probably at a very low end of that happening, because naturally people still want to do more people.
Yeah, especially in recruitment, it's such a personable industry, isn't it? It's hard to see how AI can completely remove that element from the process. It's just not possible, is it? So I think it's just about getting that right balance between AI and the human touch correct. That's without a doubt. And what would you say is the biggest kind of Yeah, it is vital. What was the biggest challenges you're seeing your employers face in attracting new talent?
Um, Certainly since the pandemic, we're seeing that people are still very much looking for some sort of remote working, flexible working element to what they're looking for. So not necessarily fully remote working. I think people have realised that having some time in the office is actually good for them, and it's good for the employer, it's good for their family, and not as well. Getting out of the house is so important for people's mental health. It's not to be locked up all day. So we are seeing a huge shift towards people wanting hybrid work, but we do still, and I think we will continue to see that people want that flexibility and need it. People have adapted their lives now to having that. And I think as a lot of businesses move back to wanting people fully in the office, I think Barclays recently pulled their people back in the office, and it's caused a little bit of a ripple in terms of people looking elsewhere. Then I think naturally businesses do need to have some sort of flexibility. The new government is looking to in gaming rights for that as well. They're looking to try and make 4-day working weeks, something that is going to be quite a regular trend going forward. So I think businesses just need to adapt to that. Appreciate business and people back in the office because you've got empty offices, you've got overheads to pay, but it's just balancing that out really, which is where hybrid work tends to be the sweet spot of making sure you're keeping your employees happy, also making use and having people in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. The hybrid is definitely the way forward. I think with that, the companies have got to adapt to this now. It's been a while since the work from home kind of element come into play now. I think it's all about adapting and because otherwise people just won't work for you, will they? They're gonna look at that and they're gonna see, well, this option is hybrid, this option is have to be in the office 5 days a week. So it's having them options in place for sure.
Absolutely. No, it's
hard, isn't it? Yeah. So this definitely something that keeps popping up in conversations I'm having regularly is the hybrid work from home scenario. It's pretty a talked about subject at the moment.
yeah. It unfortunately, it's not going to go away. Even for me, it's. I'm sure people probably think that again, it's all news, but
Yeah.
it can't really be a deal breaker. I recently had a role on where 80% of people were looking for hybrid working and they're really well qualified, experienced people, and the client weren't able to, weren't willing to offer that and missed out on a huge bunch of great quality candidates. Yeah, it can be quite detrimental to businesses when they're unable or not happy to offer that. So it's just looking at alternatives if you're not able to do that really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What industries or roles are proving particularly challenges to fill at the moment?
I specialise in office-related positions, so generally we are looking at challenges with qualified accountants, qualified solicitors wanting to move back into an industry. For instance, you might have worked in practice environments and have gone into industry, may not want to go back to practice. We're seeing that practices are finding it difficult to find experienced people within those environments. On a more general sort of UK recruitment aspect, engineering is a huge area where they're struggling to find quality people. And also things like manufacturing and right through to hospitality because of Brexit and the challenges related to the visa restrictions, etc. We've actually seen that lower skilled roles are actually harder to fill because we haven't got people from overseas who are happy to come in and fill those voids. So we're having to rely on people already settled in the UK who aren't necessarily happy to go into those roles. On the larger scale, something like manufacturing, hospitality, that can be quite a challenge for those recruiters in those industries who operate in those areas.
Yeah, so you have a kind of high skilled shortage, and you also have, I suppose, more of a lower skilled shortage for the people to fill, as in the hospitality roles. Yeah, it's Brexit's caused a lot of trouble with that, I can imagine. What would you say was your kind of current recruitment strategies that are working really well? Or is there some strategies that used to work but that don't work now for you?
So communication is a big change. We're finding that particularly the younger generations hard to get hold of by phone initially. So we've had to implement things like WhatsApp. When you reach out to candidates initially, they like to use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, things of that nature to initially start that conversation with a view of then building confidence to then have a chat by phone. Naturally, that's okay for some roles, but a lot of the roles I cover, it can be a bit of a red flag because a lot of them are, you need a telephone to be able to do your job, so that doesn't help. And this is something I'm feeding back to people in education industries and those sort of circles to be able to say the soft skills of people coming into employment really need to be enhanced to be able to, people to have the confidence to communicate via phone rather than hiding behind a messenger or an email. So that's really changed. The speed at which things are happening as well is probably one of the biggest factors, is because of the implementation of technology that when candidates are looking for jobs now, it's so quick to it's almost like dating apps, if I'm honest, where they're able to just apply for things. It's not only quick from that point of view, it's also quick in their minds that if they don't hear back within a certain time, they'll either be snapped, if they're a really good candidate, they'll be snapped up by a competitor, or they'll just lose interest in the process. So it's about acting very quickly with the candidates through the whole recruitment process, from that initial engagement to do the vet, right through to introducing candidates, right through to employers actually doing the interview. And if you're not efficient within that process, we're finding that candidates do drop out of the process more quickly if it's not going as quickly as they would fit to that individual expect. So yeah, that can be proven quite challenging.
I suppose the whole kind of, the interview system now has completely changed through like in person to video meetings now is more common, would you say?
Yeah, so we are seeing that people still use video interviews as an initial interview.
Yeah.
To speed the process up. So it could be that we've got a managing director who's based in London for a role in Manchester, but they don't necessarily want those candidates to come down to London. They don't see that's necessary. So the initial interview, they'll jump on a video call, get a good feel for each other, and then we're tending to find the second interview is face to face, where they're able to meet in person, meet the team. But it does speed up the process, and we're finding post-pandemic, thankfully, we are finding that it's again coming back to that hybrid. Through the pandemic, everything was online, but we're seeing that there's people who are picking and choosing how that works for them. That they might do a few interviews online, but bring that person back in for a face to face. And to be fair, it does work really well because it speeds up that initial process. And you find that candidates become invested quickly as well. So they are then happy to maybe wait a few days for that face-to-face interview, not simply face-to-face. So you effectively working quicker to, like I said, pull those really good candidates into the process.
Yeah, and I suppose that way you can also filter out people that are not suitable for the role, rather than having to do a face-to-face meeting and have all that organisation. You just quickly jump on a 10-minute call, 10-minute video call. You're not the right fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that can really help.
A lot more efficient for the hiring managers as well. Like you said, they don't need to block out their diary for too long.
Yeah.
They can stay in the office, do it over the desk and get back to their work pretty much straight away. Likewise with the candidates, so the candidates aren't having to do as much prep, they're not having to travel, so it's good for the environment as well. So there's pros and cons to all of these things, but from a personal perspective, I think, doing an initial video by face to face is really effective.
Yeah, absolutely. What common mistakes do you see companies making in their recruitment process?
The biggest one is being very slow in the process. So you can get an instruction from somebody, it's usually we need this person yesterday, but when it actually comes to then working very quickly to provide those great candidates, a lot of the time their priorities come up with the clients. So although they had initial good intentions of following through on an efficient process, naturally recruitment isn't their only thing that they're focusing on, especially if you're dealing with managing director, finance director, a manager of a department, unless you're actually dealing with HR or in-house recruiter, a TA, etc. It's not necessarily their priority. So other things come up and that can then fragment the recruitment process. So what may be, let's give people an interview within a week, then turns out to be 2-3 weeks. You lose people through that process and then effectively back to square one. So I would say that's probably the biggest mistake that companies can make. When I work with clients, we look at working along almost like business plan. So we put timeframes and targets in place to ensure that we're sort of meeting those parameters for the benefit, not only for them, but also to make it smooth as possible, really.
Yeah.
It's so important at the end for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. What skills do you think will be in most demand over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
I think IT skills, tech skills are definitely up there. That's definitely a must-have in today's age. And the soft skills, like I mentioned previously, I think communication, just having a general sense of a work ethic. I think there's been quite a lot in terms of people looking at things like social media, becoming a social media influencer and things like that can potentially have a little bit of give a skewed point of people thinking, oh, I can make a good book. Whereas going down the traditional paths of employment is good for your long-term prospects. So still building those skills in order to operate within a team environment are absolutely vital, really. And naturally, the pandemic did cause some sort of anxiety, particularly with the younger generations, which is, I believe, has been a contributory factor to people maybe having a few issues with their students. But if we can build that back up to ensure that people can have open conversations and have that confidence to go into the workplace and then apply their intelligence and their knowledge and build on their experience, then I think that'd be great for candidates to.
Yeah, I think it's a big issue, that the whole communication thing at the moment with, like you said, the pandemic. A lot of people, they don't communicate as well as what kind of my generation did. Certainly, everyone was always kind of out socialising, and now a lot of people just they don't know how to communicate properly. It's crazy, isn't it? It's really a problem, especially with the generation coming through.
Yeah, and like you said, we only have to look at the hospitality industry to see that people aren't going to pubs as much. They're not sort of using those as social hubs. And a lot of it is just messaging or phones and things. Although it's probably good for the health of those people not to be in the pubs. And
Yeah, definitely.
you still need to have those hubs where, even go doing a hobby, with a team sport or something where you can still have, the conversation to build those relationships with your peers, you know, active nature as well. So I still think that's really important. So hopefully we can still see that happening. But yeah, I think a little bit more needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're getting some.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I've got one final question actually for you. Is what advice would you give companies looking to improve their talent acquisition strategy?
I think it's setting out clear goals from the outset. So understanding exactly what you want from getting involved in doing your recruitment campaign, and making sure that you've got clear timeframes in place, making sure that you're delegating as well. That can often be overlooked, but if you're an MD or somebody who has multiple levels of responsibility, if you delegate that out, then that can empower hiring managers to take on those tasks. And then following through, making sure your process is really efficient, make sure it's really, really clear and transparent, and communicate really effectively to candidates, even if they're not successful. The knock-on effect to what we're seeing with candidates at the moment, a huge amount of candidates applying for multiple roles, but not hearing back. This is going back to sort of technology getting in the way of actually having that human interaction. So it can be hugely demoralising to candidates when they're not getting feedback, even if it is just an email saying, unfortunately, you haven't been successful. I think making sure you've got some system in place to ensure you're providing that feedback to people who aren't as successful, but also making sure that the process and the journey for candidates through the process is seamless. When you have an interview with them, provide feedback swiftly as soon as you can. And again, you don't want to lose good people. You also want to ensure that you're providing common courtesy to the people who you have interviewed as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think giving feedback is really, really important. I think it just helps people in the future, doesn't it, to improve on their next time they go for a job interview. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rob, thanks for sharing the insights today with us. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners learn more about Blue Orchid Recruitment and connect with you?
So you can go on the website, which is blueorchidrecruitment.co.uk. You can find me on LinkedIn. Look for Rob Griffiths or Blue Orchid Recruitment Limited. Or you can use the old dog and bone, which is 01743 612 013.
Right. All right. Thanks for listening to the Thought Leader Recruiter podcast. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe and share with others in your network. And till next time.